On that note, I would like to give a big thank you to Rabbi Friedman, who is well known for being mekadev and inspiring and elevating Yidden throughout the world, Yidden from all walks of life, from those that you might consider the simplest to the deepest and everything in between. And it is a schus for us that Rabbi Friedman is here in Lakewood to verbring with us and to share the simcha of the Alter Rebbe and the simcha of the Rabbeim and the simcha of Chassidus with us. So without further ado, Rabbi Manas Friedman. L'chaim, l'chaim. Yes, you should sit.
I think it's safe to say that when you call a day a Yom Tov, it obviously is referring to something that happened on that day. Shavuos is Matan Torah, Pesach is Yitzias Mitzrayim. But you call it Yom Tov. There's something about the day itself, like the expression, I lav hayom dikogorim. It's the day itself. Which means that right at the beginning of Maaseh Bereshis, the plan of creation, the plan of Maaseh Bereshis was these particular days are special and something special is going to happen in them. In other words, the days of Pesach are Pesach-dike days, and that's why Pesach happened in those days. The day of Shavuos is a Torah-dike day, a Gilui day. That's why the Torah was Nizgala and given on that day. Even the Rosh Hashanahs that the Gemara mentions, it's not arbitrary. It didn't just happen that this is Rosh Hashanah Lilonis, this is Rosh Hashanah Lishtoris. There's a reason. The day fits the event, and that's why the event happened on that day. That's why we call it Yom Tov. But you probably have heard that Yutes Kislev is called Chag HaChagim. What does that mean? It's holier than Yom Kippur, it's holier than Sukkot, it's holier than Shavuos. Chag HaChagim means literally the Chag that inspires all the other Chagim. We didn't realize what Chagim were until we learned in Chassidus the full greatness and meaning of a Chag. So it's like Chag HaChagim, the Chag that made all the other Chagim understandable, meaningful. And that's in general what Chassidus does. Chassidus doesn't add. The same Taryag mitzvahs, the same Torah, Torah Shebeksav, Torah Shebal Peh. What does Chassidus do? It shows you what you're reading and what you're studying and what you're doing on a much deeper level than you expected. So it's like the third dimension. Torah was great, Torah was high. Now with Chassidus, Torah becomes deep. And it takes us to the depths of Torah. What does deep mean? Doesn't mean deep philosophy. Deep means very personal. The very personal side of Hashem, the very personal side of Ayid, the inside, the pnimius. So the Rebbe Rashab said concerning Yutes Kislev, this is the day that Eir v'chayes nafshenu niten lanu. We were given a great gift. And that gift is Eir and Chayes, the light and the life. What are these two things? The word Eir usually refers to Chochmah. So Eir is the light that illuminates your seichel. Chayus, energy, life, that is the light that illuminates your emotions. The emotions are chayus. The mind is knowledge. So the Eir refers to the seichel, and the chayus refers to the emotions. If you learn a little bit of Tanya, even just a beginner's taste, you realize two things. Everything the Alter Rebbe says is so thoroughly eisgehalten. It's sensible, it's logical, it's convincing. It has to be that way. And at the same time, you can't be indifferent. It affects you. Your emotions change. And that's the uniqueness of Tanya. The uniqueness of Tanya is, like most people say, it's so deep, it's so high, they're afraid to even learn it. And at the same time, it's so personal. Somebody once said that Hasidus Chabad is like pre-chewed food. It's so thoroughly worked out already by the Rebbe, by the Rabbeim, generation after generation. They put so much thought and so much that it's almost like it's already been explained so that you can understand it easier. Alter Rebbe says an amazing thing in the Hagdama. The Tanya originally was a collection of kuntreisim. The number of people who were coming to the Alter Rebbe was just impossible to handle. And why were they coming to the Alter Rebbe? Because Rabbim, Shayalim, V'dershim, many people were looking for a derech in Avodas Hashem. They were all frum, they were all learned, they were Talmidei Chachamim, but they didn't have a derech, a shita, that shows how to serve Hashem. Of course, you do the mitzvahs, you daven 3 times a day, but what is the connection with the Eibishter? So for all the different questions that people would ask, the Rebbe wrote a kuntras. Each kuntras answered a popular question. That way, people didn't have to come all the way to where the Rebbe was, which was very difficult travel, it took weeks. They could read the kuntras, and that will give them the answer they're looking for. Eventually, those kuntreisim were gathered together and were by the Alter Rebbe and prepared to be a Sefer Sholem. And that's the Tanya. So basically, the Tanya is Eitzes in Avodas Hashem. Almost like a modern day Meira Nevuchim. A guide. In the Hagdama, the Rebbe writes, I know that you're going to complain, and you're going to say, it's not the same. It's not the same. You come and talk to the Rebbe, personal, face-to-face, eye-to-eye, it's much more intimate, it's much more meaningful to read it from a sefer. It could be exactly the same words, but it's not the same. The Rebbe says, this is different. Like, if you sit today and you read the Meideh Nevuchim, it's very hard to relate to the language, to the way of thinking. You have to adjust, you have to really work hard at it. All the Musa Svarim, it's a different language. And you got to become familiar with that language until you understand what is being said. The Rebbe says this is different. Why? You already came to me. We already spoke about your problem face to face. So I understand you. I know you. We're not strangers. So what I'm writing here is in the knowledge of who you are. Ich verstehe dir durch und durch. And I can give you personal, tailor-made advice. The Rebbe actually uses the pasuk, the Gemara, "B'yedai u'makirai ko'amina." I'm writing to those who I know and who know me, so this is personal. It is amazing how 200 years later, the Tanya is so easily understood. People are afraid that it's too deep. It's like something written yesterday to today's problems, to today's questions, as if it was meant for our time. The first thing the Rebbe says in Tanya, which is the first chelik of Tanya, Sefer Shel Beinanim, the first thing, 53 chapters, 53 prakim of what is a Yid. What is a Yid? What kind of neshama, what kind of midas, what kind of seichel, what kind of shaykhs and kesher to the Eibishter and to Torah. What is a Yid? Why was that important? Because the whole Tanya is based on the kasha. The kasha is, Torah says, Korev elecha hadavar ma'id. It is very natural for you to love Hashem. The question is, doesn't seem to be. On the contrary, loving myself is natural and easy. Loving Hashem is an avodah. So what does it mean? That for every Jew in the world, for all time to come, it is perfectly natural to love Hashem. So the Rebbe writes, this is what a Yid is. The reason you don't feel the ahavat is because you don't know what a Yid is. If you knew what a Yid is, you would know that a Yid has natural ahavat for Hashem. Yerusha me'aveseinu, maminim b'nei maminim, etc. So if you want to answer the question, how is it that we don't feel an ahavat to Hashem naturally, easily? Well, it's because you're not in touch with the Jew in you. You don't realize who you are. What is a Jew? A chelek elika mima'al mamish. Mamish is a very strong word. There's a shliach who teaches Tanya online. Very good. He does a very good job. I was talking to him, and I said to him, "The Ledenstach Tanya, can you sum up the whole Tanya in one sentence?" He says, "I can sum it up in one word." I said, "Wow, what word is that?" He said, "Mamish." Mamish. You have to love every Jew. Echad Rasha, Echad Tzadik. Mamish. Well, that changes everything. Without the mamish, okay, I have ahavat Yisrael, mer, weniger, a bissel. But when he says mamish, it's like, oh, no more messing around, no more kidding. Havei shval ruach b'fnei kol ha'odam. You have to feel inferior to every person. Mamish? Yes, mamish. The neshama is a chelik elika mimal. Mamish? Yes. Mamish hazeh. Mamish means you can feel it. Mishush. The purpose of Chassidus in general is to make Elokus bepashtus and the world, creation, hischachus. What is natural and what is not natural? What's real and what is not real? Without Chassidus, we're left with a terribly difficult struggle. We are human beings. We're born human with a nefesh habahamis, and with time, hopefully, we grow, we learn, we steig, you become a little closer, a little more aware. But your default position, your test of truth, is what you experienced when you were a child. What you can touch, what you can taste, what you can see, what you can hear, that's mamish. Torah, mitzvahs, Gan Eden, Nisim, you try to believe it, you try to get used to it, become accustomed to thinking that way, but in the end it's not as real as what I can touch, as what I can feel, and so on. That's Olam Hafuch. Das ist eine verkehrte Welt. And it's sheker. Torah is supposed to bring out the emes. The emes is that the Eibush that is real and everything else is not. Is not. So Hasidus wants that the Eibush that should become your reality, and the fact that the world exists and there's a Yetzer Hara, and that's a mystery. It's like it says, Chochma bagoyim ta'amin. You know what that means? If people tell you that the nations have Chochma, you should believe it. What does it mean, believe it? There's no evidence. You have to take it on emunah, because if you look around, there's very little Chochma. So you have to believe it. Belief means it's not familiar, it's not the reality. It's higher. And the higher you go, the less real it becomes. A very fascinating way of putting this. The Eibishter says to Adam, Mikol eitz hagan ochel teichel. But not the eitz hadas. And the shaila is, why did he have to say Mikol eitz hagan? Yeah, you can eat from all the fruits of all the trees, just not the eitz hadas. Just say, don't eat from the eitz hadas. why did the Eibishter have to say you can eat from all the other trees? If you're Adam, who was the greatest neshama in history, the neshama of Adam, according to the Zohar, was greater than the neshama of Avram Avinu, of Moshe Rabbeinu, of David HaMelech. In fact, Adam is Rosh Tevis, Adam, Moshe, David. In Adam, there was Moshe and there was David, because his neshama was bigger than, included them all. The only neshama bigger than Adam is the neshama of Mashiach. So we're talking about an awesome neshama here. So imagine you're Adam, and you're in Gan Eden, and you're hungry, because you haven't eaten, ever. So what would you do if you're in Gan Eden and you're hungry? Most people would say, what would he do? What would I do if The place is full of trees. There's fruits everywhere. So go eat. That's Alma de Shikra. Adam would never eat from any of the trees if he wasn't told, Ochel Teichel. He's hungry. Just because you're hungry doesn't mean you can eat somebody else's fruits. So if the Eibishter hadn't given him permission, almost like a mitzvah, Ochel Teichel, he would not eat. So what do you mean he'd not eat? He's hungry. No. But if he doesn't eat, he'll die. No. So here's how you know whether you're in tune with MS or not. Pikuach nefesh is deiche Shabbos. If your reaction is, oh, of course, avada, you're not looking at the world correctly. What do you mean avada? Shabbos is holy. You're not allowed to do certain things on Shabbos. But if it's pikuach nefesh, it's deiche Shabbos. That should shock you. Why? Why is pikuach nefesh deiche Shabbos? My life is holier than Shabbos? It should come as a shock. It should need pirushim and mefarshim and hezbedim to convince me that it somehow makes sense that pikuach nefesh should be deiche Shabbos. Because it shouldn't be. So the Gemara Taka comes up with an answer. Be mechalel one Shabbos so that you'll be able to keep Shabbos harbe. Oh, now it makes sense. Not my life is more important than Shabbos. Many Shabbosim is more important than one Shabbos. Why does the Gemara have to tell you all of this? Because that emes and emes is that pikuach nefesh is deiche Shabbos is a chidush. It's a gzeiras hakosuf. So what's real and what's a chidush? So if you read even the beginning of Tanya, the first thing the Alter Rebbe tells us, the biggest chidush, is that a Tzadik doesn't have a Yetzer Hara. A human being with a Yetzer Hara is not a Tzadik. Klal. Maybe a Beinani, maybe not even. People have a hard time. You tell people, frume people, who learned a little bit in yeshiva, that a tzaddik doesn't have a yetzer hara, they find it very hard to root. A person without a yetzer hara. Whoever heard of such a thing? Every person has a yetzer hara. In fact, they'll find you psukim, gemaras, ein tzadik ba'oretz asher yasa tova lo yechta. They'll tell you Reuven sinned, Yehuda sinned, Shimon and Levi sinned, Moshe Rabbeinu sinned. Why is that the common attitude? Because we're starting from the bottom. You start from the bottom, Gashmias is real, Gashmias is solid, this is reality. As you go up the ladder in Ruchnius, it becomes less and less until it kind of becomes so faded you can barely... So that a person has a yetzer hara, wow, that we know for sure. A person without a yetzer hara, really? Hard to believe. But what if we started from the top? In the beginning, there was nothing. Ayin mamish. There was just Eibishter. And the Eibishter created something. What do you expect that something to look like? There was only Eibishter, only Getlichkeit. And the Eibishter created something. What would you expect it to look like? Obviously, you would expect it to look like him. Masi yodai lehispoyer. The Eibishter created me, I should look like him. So when you come and tell me there's a tzaddik who doesn't have a yetzer hara, I have no questions. What needs to be explained? The Eibishter created him, so he looks like the Eibishter. Ish Elikim makes perfect sense. When you tell me the Eibishter created a human being, and the human being has a yetzer hara and doesn't want to listen to the Eibishter, wow, how can that be? That doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make sense. The Eibishter created you, and the way Tanya explains later on, he's creating you right now, and you can ignore him and spite him? That doesn't make any sense. So what's real and what's weird? That a person has no yetzer hara, that's real. That's natural. A person does have a yetzer hara? Oh boy, you're going to have to explain this. How could such a thing happen? That is so weird. What is our emes? And what is to us a gzeres hakosov, a chidush, a wonder, a mystery? The yetzer hara is a profound mystery. The Eibishter created a world. Where did the yetzer hara come from? The Eibishter creates a Gan Eden. Where does a snake come from? What do you mean there was a snake? It's a very simple analogy. If your children look like you don't have to explain anything. If your children don't look like you got a lot of explaining to do. The tzaddik looks like the Eibishter. So what's your question? Tzadik Yesod Olam means that tzaddik is the most natural part of all of creation. The non-tzaddik Oh, that's going to need a lot of mefarshim. How in the world does this happen in the Eibishter's world? So you have the Zohar, and you have the Arizal, explanation after explanation. There was a tzimtzum, there was a hester panim, there were many tzimtzumim, and there are curtains, and after all of that, it's still a pesach. Yetzer Hara is not normal. It can't be. So it has to be temporary. It has to be temporary. Because it's not real. This is the meaning of mamish. Elokus is mamish. Gashmius? I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. The only way to explain it is the Eibishter is kol yochel. He can do anything. He can even do something so weird as to make something that isn't godly. But I'll never understand that. That's what Chassidus does. Chassidus brings the Eibishter down to reality and makes Gashmius a little suspect. You really need it. Really, it's good, it's healthy. Actually not. Eating is not always healthy. Sleeping is not always healthy. Working for a living is not always healthy. Heim chayenu v'eirech yomeinu. Godliness is real. Godliness makes sense. That's our starting point. And anything that drifts away, mysterious. How does this happen? Like the Zohar says, nefesh kisechta? Question mark. A nefesh ken zindigen? How? Why? But if you have the attitude, yeah, nefesh kisechta, ahavat, yeah. Well, sin, I mean, it's unavoidable. It's unavoidable? That's a bad hashkafa. So not only should we have a question, how could Reuven, how could he possibly have done something wrong? He's not your ordinary guy, he's Reuven. How can Bnei Yaakov, mitosei shlema, how can someone who was Yaakov's child do an aveda? You're not asking for an answer. You're saying it can't be. It can't be. Can't be Moshe Rabbeinu, who spoke to the Eibishter ponim el ponim, gets frustrated and hits the wrong rock. Can't be. What are you talking about? Not only Moshe Rabbeinu, any Jew, once you've learned a little bit of Tanya, any Jew that you know is a chelek eleka mimal, if he does an aveda, you should be puzzled and shocked and surprised. How does a Jew do an aveda? So I'm going to end with the story. The Chassidim of Bobiv were, of course, devastated by World War II. When the Bobiv Eruv, Shloimeh, came to America, he gathered whoever survived, he gathered them, the original Bobiv Chassidim, he gathered them together, created a little bit of a community, which happened to be in Crown Heights at the time, and slowly a kehillah was reviving. He recognized a Jew who wasn't coming to the shul. He recognized him as somebody who used to be in Bobiv, who was a Baal Tefillah. So he asked him to come daven for the Amud in the shul in Bobiv. He came, he davened, it was very nice. The Ruv said to this guy, come Shabbos, it's the daven in Shabbos for the Amud. He said, yeah, maybe I'll see. Anyway, Shabbos morning came and he doesn't show up. The Ruv sent his son to go find this guy. He lived in the neighborhood, go and find him. His son goes and he finds him sitting. There's a little park over there north of Eastern Parkway. He was sitting, smoking a cigarette, reading a newspaper. He said good Shabbos to him and turned around and went home. He comes back, his father says to him, no, you found him? He says, I found him, but I didn't ask him to come daven. He's smoking on Shabbos. Reichert. The Ruv said to him, Reichert? He is smoking? The Nazi is smoking. Go invite him and bring him back. He went back and he asked him to come and he davened for the Amud. Bobiv moved to Borough Park. They lost touch with each other and many, many years went by and he didn't see this Jew. One day, an old man shows up in Bobiv and he says to the Ruv, do you remember me? I'm the Baal Tefillah. I want you to come to my son's Sheva Bruchas. The Rav went. This man had 70 descendants, all of them Shomer Torah and Mitzvahs. And the Ruv said to his son, Nee, wer hat gereichert? The Nazi had gereichert. A Jew doesn't smoke on Shabbos. When you say a Jew doesn't smoke on Shabbos, is that a true statement? You don't know Jews who smoke on Shabbos? If you say Jews don't eat chazah, true or not? It's absolutely true. You know a Jew who eats chazah? You're going to have to bring mefarshim and explain it, and because no, a Jew doesn't. Jew does not. So you give me a hezbollah. Tell me that there's Yetzahara, Yitzrei Onsei, his Nichnas Beiruach Shtus, all sorts of explanations because it can't be that a Jew does something that isn't Jewish. It can't be. It'll never happen. That's the emes. But I saw someone eating chazir. You're going to have to explain what you saw because, no. A Jew doesn't do that. The Golus does that, not the Jew. So if you leave a Jew alone, you don't harm him, don't make him crazy, don't traumatize him, don't scare him, don't bribe him. Of course he wouldn't eat chazir. Of course he would keep Shabbos. When you see a Jew smoking on Shabbos, ask, who's doing it? It's not him. Nefesh ki sechta. So again, what is the emes and what is a wilde chiddush? The first thing you get from learning Tanya, a Jew doesn't sin. A Jew is a chelek elika mimal mamish. That's real. That you can bet on. The Jew can sin. We're going to have to explain that. And it's going to take a lot of explaining. And in the end, the emes is going to remain. Jew does not sin. When you hear the stories of the Barditchevim, who found a limud zchus on people who were doing what they shouldn't have been doing, right? But he found a limud zchus. It's not that he had to come up with an explanation. When he looked at a Jew, he did not see an Aveda. It's not that he had to explain that Afal Pi Shechoto Yisrael Hu. That's not the Chiddush. The Chiddush is Choto. A Jew? Can't be. Now we have a hashkafa that is a Yiddish hashkafa. That sin is real, and everybody sins, and everybody's got a Yetzer Hara. I don't know if that's even Yiddishkeit. I'm not sure that that's Yiddishkeit. Could be we picked that up from other sources. Real, echte Yiddishkeit is Aid zindigt nicht. That's real. The rest is nicht verstandig. I had a story recently, more recently. The first year of COVID, with the quarantine and the lockdown, and it was Pesach. There's a man in Manhattan that I know a little bit. He nebuch lives alone. Not an old man. He lost his wife at a young age. They never had children. So he's alone. On top of that, there was quarantine and lockdown. So he's in his apartment in Manhattan, elend v'ashtein, completely isolated. He's not from a observant family. Yiddishkeit is strange to him. But he was sitting on his computer, listening to the news, and the newscaster said, "This evening, Jews all over the world are celebrating Passover." He was shocked. He didn't know. He said, "Whoa, tonight is Passover." He goes into the kitchen. He looks in his pantry. Of course, there was no matzah. But he had rice cakes. He takes 3 rice cakes, takes out a bottle of wine, and goes into the closet where he had a box of things that he kept from his grandmother when she passed away. And in that box, there was a tiny little Haggadah that is published by Maxwell House Coffee. Anybody know about this? For many, many, many years, Maxwell House Coffee gives out a Haggadah for Pesach. Because every Jew used Maxwell House Coffee. Maxwell House Coffee and Heinz ketchup. That's like Jewish products. He sat down to make a Seder. He never saw a Seder. He had no idea what he's doing. He calls me after Yontif. And he tells me what he did. And he says like this, "I didn't expect it to be meaningful, because I don't know what I'm doing. And besides, how weird is it to ask yourself 4 questions? But I was surprised," he says. I was surprised. It felt meaningful because it felt like somebody was listening. I thought, this is the most incredible thing I've ever heard. He didn't know, nobody told him, that when you say, "Tater will bei dir fragen 4 kashas," your Father in Shamayim comes down to hear your kashas. But he felt it. He felt like somebody was listening. I was very excited about this. It was very inspiring. So I told some of my mishpacha, who are not Chabad, but Chassidim. They said, Fe. Chayze gemacht von a mitzvah. He wasn't yetze anything. He fulfilled no mitzvah. Rice cakes cannot be substitutes for matzah, even if you're a Sephardi. And the wine that he used is probably not even kosher wine. And the Seder, he make a Seder, he didn't know what he was doing. It's bezoyin mitzvah. It's horrible. He had no business doing that. I told the same story to some of my friends who are not yet frum, and they said, why did he bother her? Unnecessary. He's not religious, he doesn't have to do that. So, why? Next year, if he knows that Passover is coming and he wants to do it, he'll buy some matzah and do it. But this was, waste of time. But if the Alter Rebbe was here, and I told the Alter Rebbe this story, what would the Alter Rebbe say? What would the Baal Shem Tov say? There's no question. The Alter Rebbe would say, this man's Seder made God cry with pleasure. More than all the others done in New York. What's the question? Did he fulfill a mitzvah? Not one. Not one. But look at what a Jew is. He's locked in. Nobody is there. Nobody will know whether he did or he didn't make a Seder. In his family, if he told them that he wants to make a Seder, they would laugh at him. So why did he bother? Why did he bother? Because a Jew is a chelek eleka mima'al mamish. But he doesn't know how to make a Seder. Well, that needs a pirush. For that you need mefarshim. How can it be a Jew doesn't know that it's Pesach? Explain it. Write books after book to explain this strange phenomenon. But that he wants to do what the Eibishter wants, that makes perfect sense. He's a chelek eleka mimal. That's the Poshet Emes. That's mamish. Now Avas Yisrael makes more sense. Can you really love every Jew? No. You can love his neshama. He said, that's not a mitzvah. Loving neshamas is not a mitzvah. The mitzvah is to love the person who has the neshama. But is that possible? Every Jew? Now you see, of course it's possible. It's not just that there is a neshama. The Yid is his neshama. So who are you loving? The neshama without the Yid? You love a Yid because a Yid is a chelek eleka mima'al mamish. So how does he do an Aveda? Very good question. Very good question. Needs a lot of commentary. And after all the commentary, it still doesn't compute. That's the first effect that Tanya has when you learn it. All of a sudden, everything holy and godly becomes real and mamish, and Yetzirah, Aveda, Golus, Gehenna. Where's that coming from? Darfus, it's going to go. It's over. It's going to be over any day now. Because it's not emes. For that alone, it's worth learning Tanya every single day. just to appreciate was is a Yid. We haven't even gotten to the Eberste yet. Chaim. Which one is the water and which one is the vodka? Chaim, Chaim.